Hello, and welcome to another episode of the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, going live every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern. Here to talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling. One hell of a Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania. Overall, it was good. It's shaping up to be an amazing week, obviously. WrestleMania week. Happy WrestleMania week to all the wrestling fans out there. There's going to be a bunch of content, and it's crazy. There's also TNA as well, so don't the AEW, of course, Ring of Honor, so make sure you guys check those out as well. Hope you guys had a fun, safe, lovely weekend, and definitely love definitely being back on the air 1010%. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We have a great show for you today, all lined up. We got some Monday Night Raw review, Smackdown review. We have AEW Dynamite Spring Break Thru preview. We're going to go through NXT Stand and Deliver. Going to give you guys some of my some predictions. Also going to talk about the NXT episode as well, airing on Tuesday, tomorrow. And our fifth and final segment, John Cena's on a retirement tour. Obviously, I've seen through social media that Carlito actually talked to John Cena backstage, telling that he's actually gearing up for his retirement tour as well. So we're going to talk about WWE, TNA, WCW. We're going to talk about all of wrestling's. We're going to talk about the worst retirement tours of any wrestler out there. Anything under the sun, anything under the umbrella that is professional wrestling. So you guys get ready to have some fun to talk about that. But before we do anything further, just want to remind you guys to go ahead and hit up that tips and donations link. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like. Just remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show, follow the network here at the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity, 1010%. But in terms of talking sports, it's inevitable. There's going to be some disagreements. There's going to be some criticisms, and it's already water under the bridge. It's all cool. It's okay. No comments are definitely, shied against or anything like that. So I want to make sure you guys are absolutely comfortable. Make sure you guys, this is a nice, interactive, fun podcast. That's all it's made to be. No wrong answers whatsoever, so make sure you guys participate in the chat. Whether if you got a burning question or a hot take, or just absolutely just something you've been dying to get off your ears, and maybe you have a wrestling conspiracy theories, go ahead and toss it inside the chat. We'll talk about it. This podcast is all about keeping the conversation lively, making sure you guys feel like your voice is part of the mix, so don't be shy to drop your thoughts inside that chat. And if you really want to make sure your comment, question, or concern gets noticed, why not hit up that super chat right there, which guarantees anything you guys put inside that chat box to be featured, talked about, debated about, maybe even take place of a segment on the show. So, what are you waiting for? Just go ahead and hit up that $. It's also, a great way to support the channel. Guys, 1010%. We have a bunch of passionate podcasters, all young guys looking to, improve their chances of making it in the sports media universe. So definitely, a little bit helps. And obviously just your guys' your attention and participating in the chat. Also good, just as good as U.S. currency. So definitely, help us keep the content that you guys love so damn much coming at you Monday through Friday. And we are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. Your support makes all the difference. So let's send in those super chats, those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome, and together we will make sure this podcast is one of the best wrestling podcasts ever. Okay, let's go ahead and jump on into some WWE Monday Night Raw. It was a good one. It was obviously, the Monday Night Raw before the WrestleMania. It's, it's a go-home show. It's a go-home show live in Sacramento, California, airing on Netflix. Gunther comes out right off the bat. Michael Cole said he was supposed to interview him, but he didn't want to wait. He said, screw your questions. I got to be honest, I thought that was funny as hell. Later on in the show, we had Jey Uso give a promo. So both the men, had to get off whatever they had to say, off their chest. There was no silly fight where referees would have to come in and break it up, and we didn't see our weekly visual, or we didn't get a chance to see Kenny Dykstra, Jamie Noble, or Jason Jordan. So that was it's kind of sad. Definitely love seeing those guys. There's going to be a good old dogfight, good old fashioned dogfight. Gunther 1010%, looking more focused now more than ever. Jay as well. I would say at this point in time they do seem kind of equal. I know a lot of people are banking on Jey Uso winning the match at Mania because he has so much momentum. It would really make no sense to to slow it down, 1,010%. I actually saw something online that Rikishi was basically saying, "Hey, if you're doubting son, talking crap on my son." I think he was talking, or I think more or less he was kind of commenting on on some comments that Kevin Nash said about his son, that he looks like he needs to hit the gym. That's the reason why he botched the spear and botched the jump over the ropes or whatever. So he seemed like, yeah, if you want to meet me anywhere, we can throw down. And I'm like, damn, dude, Rikishi's still throwing that stink face, bro. That's good. Imagine doing that like in a random fight. That would be so weird. So awkward. Anyways, moving on. He says he's going to beat the holy hell out of Jey Uso. He's going to call his mom the next day, basically tell him how proud he is of doing what he did. And, I hope this match, it needs blood. I feel like this match definitely 1,010% needs a little bit of blood, just for like the angle. Gunther's the ultimate bad guy, and if Cena dethrones Cody Rhodes, which is a chance. I would say that main event is more or less a little bit more unpredictable than the Jey Uso Gunther fight, which kind of sucks for Jey. He won the Royal Rumble. Got a lot of hate, a lot of baggage online, only to find out that you're not really going to you're not going to main event none of the WrestleManias. Like, he's main event Jey Uso, and he does not get to main event any of the WrestleManias. Not night 1, not night 2, which is kind of troublesome. That kind of sucks. Maybe it's a little foreshadow because, Las Vegas, although, it's the city of dreams, it's also, city of, nightmares or whatever like that. You gamble too much, and then sometimes you go home without the deed to your house or something like that. So, maybe kind of foreshadowing to some bad news happening at WrestleMania. I hope that this WrestleMania is definitely different from all the rest. The past couple of WrestleManias, I got to be honest, it seems like every WrestleMania seems to pander to the good guy. More or less. And, with The Rock taking over, obviously The Rock, he's in showbiz, a lot of movie cinema, maybe more of a kind of a darker side, but eventually, the anti-hero or the hero, they prevail in the long run. This is Triple H's second WrestleMania under the Triple H Paul Levesque era. If you kind of have most of the bad guys, win at WrestleMania, I would feel like, and I'm kind of thinking about it right now, you would get a lot more storylines. You'd get a lot more positive bookings. You can definitely move a lot of characters around on the roster. With the WWE draft coming up too, I think late April or early May, it should be, it'll make things a little bit more, I don't know. I feel like it would pop more. But that's just my opinion, 1,010%. If you guys disagree or agree, make sure you guys hit up those super chats and, tell me how you feel. Bayley takes on Liv Morgan. Raquel Rodriguez tried to get involved, tried putting Liv Morgan's foot on the bottom of the rope, obviously botched that. But, it ended how I expected it to end. I knew that this would end in chaos, and I know that Lyra Valkyria and Bayley are still trying to kind of build up their repertoire of being a tag team, after winning that gauntlet match on SmackDown. But all in all, it was a decent match. It was a good match. Next, we have a Bianca Belair promo, basically saying that, hey, if you don't like the truth, either way, you got to handle it. I got to handle the triple threat match now. Maybe that encourages her to beg, borrow, and steal a little bit more. Possibly, that could happen. But Bianca Belair, I feel like at this point in time, with everything going down with Naomi and the way that Jade Cargill is being pushed by WWE, something needs to give. I personally did not like the fact that Bianca wasn't involved in the Jade Cargill her being thrown through the windshield of an Escalade or whatever. I was kind of sad that Naomi solely kind of took the blame in that, but I feel like she's gonna go out there at WrestleMania. She's gonna feel all the love for Io Sky, all the love for Rhea Ripley. She's gonna look at the fans being like, hey, what about me? Kind of like how Naomi, the reason why she turned on Jade was because she was basically saying that she stole the spotlight and stuff like that, or what Jade says is Naomi's just upset that she stole the glow. But no, it was this is something that kind of needs to happen. Karrion Kross takes on AJ Styles. Decent match. I thought it was great. Give it a 7.5 out of 10. Obviously, Karrion Kross will also bring out a darker side of AJ Styles. After AJ Styles wins the match, Logan Paul comes out to take out AJ Styles to kind of build up that momentum a little bit. We got Penta taking on Finn Balor in a one-on-one match, but then obviously, before the match, a little bit before the match, you had the Judgment Day take down the WWE Intercontinental Champion backstage, Braun Breaker. So of course, you got to pay your dues, you got to accept, responsibility for your actions, accountability. So Braun Breaker came out, started, wanting to beat the holy hell out of Finn Balor. Dominic Mysterio gets involved. Penta actually, helps out Braun. So that, kind of funny how that all works out. And then Penta at the end of it, does like a maneuver, like I think it was a corkscrew, I'm not too sure, off the top rope onto all three of the participants that are going to be in the match at WrestleMania. So this Intercontinental Championship match is shaping out to be super badass. I can't wait to see it. Roman Reigns comes out pretty pissed off, absolutely pissed off, 1010%. He denies Paul Heyman the pleasure of saying his name or giving him the microphone. Paul Heyman the whole time was looking at Roman Reigns like, what's going to happen next. He's going to stab Roman Reigns in the back. He feels betrayed. By all means, after the way Paul Heyman, the way he was treated by Roman Reigns, it's never really been like a cordial, nice thing or whatever. Roman definitely has that philosophy of ruling with an iron fist. So, that kind of gives a little bit, of the hint. Definitely 1010% saying that I don't give out favors. I don't take favors. I take what I want. Roman Reigns acknowledges that Paul Heyman was the one who owed the favor to CM Punk, asking him to be in that War Games match that Roman never basically asked for, and he's the one who has to suffer, which is true. Seth Rollins comes out. Seth Rollins seems like an absolutely pivotal piece in what's going to happen next. He was talking about this will define the future of the industry. This business dies when people like Roman Reigns and CM Punk are on top. Always, I have to do what's best for business. Total foreshadowing, 1010%. This could be WWE obviously yanking someone's chain, but I feel like Seth Rollins is going to be this second piece to The Rock's faction. And it's, and you look at his attire. What I've noticed from Seth Rollins' attire, he comes out with the cut-off sleeve shirt. When The Rock comes out, cut off, like V-neck, cut-off sleeve shirt. You see, I kind of saw, and his attire that he was wearing, all black, his pockets right here and here and here, kind of looks like the Shield. Looks a little bit like the Shield vest. Just a little bit like just different, revamped, a whole different style, 1010%. And if you think about the people that The Rock has been trying to include in this faction, obviously Cody Rhodes told him to F off, but now you have John Cena. Now you might have Seth Rollins in in this faction from The Rock, and The Rock clearly wants to take everything away from Roman Reigns. Going after the WWE Championship, it could happen, but I don't think he cares. I feel like The Rock, he's already kind of had his glory in WWE as a WWE champion. He did give off that promo, the Raw after WrestleMania last year, saying that he wanted to hold Cody's title. But he's the people's champion. And I feel like Seth Rollins stole a phrase from The Rock, responding to basically all the Cody crybabies and Cody Rhodes are taking his place at WrestleMania to take on Roman Reigns. I got to do what's best for business. The Rock wants to sit at the head of the table. I don't really see him relishing in the fact that he could potentially be the face of the WWE. I feel like more or less right now he's kind of just building up a band of guys that might potentially be the future. You have all these pieces that Roman Reigns has kind of sprinkled all of his trust and part of his history behind John Cena. Obviously, telling Roman Reigns like, "Hey, I'm only here because you can't do your job. You can't cut a promo." And then Roman Reigns at the time when he was the big dog, he was really flustered, really he couldn't cut a promo to save his life. And, you have that pivotal piece in John Cena. Of course, how Seth Rollins is kind of, the brother in arms of Roman Reigns. They've they've been together for the whole Shield thing, the whole reunion, back and forth here and there. But with Dean Ambrose or Jon Moxley gone, I feel like the Shield is dead. And, Seth Rollins said in an interview on a podcast saying that the only time and the next time you're going to see the Shield reunited is at the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony, which I agree 1,010%. CM Punk comes out, obviously, to protect his friend. CM Punk's downfall will be his love for Paul Heyman. It's a lot of. I feel like maybe Paul Heyman might join The Rock's new crew too. As the Seth Rollins guy now, maybe, because it seems like Seth Rollins, he needs a future in the WWE. He's been kind of floating around lately, basically in the CM Punk feud. He's down I don't think he's ever won a match against CM Punk. That cage match, but that was because of Roman. And then if the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns walks out the winner with Paul Heyman, all this ultimately seems like an absolute waste of time, an absolute waste of promos. So that's not going to happen. I know Roman Reigns isn't going to win. CM Punk, he's the anti-hero, but then again, he has so much respect for Paul Heyman. I feel like it's going to be the downfall. I thought it was kind of cool how Michael Cole at the end of the promo, when Seth Rollins hit Roman Reigns in the back with the chair, he was like, "Oh, Shield chair." I thought that was pretty badass. It was pretty cool. All in all, a great episode of Monday Night Raw. Of course, those who don't have Netflix and are watching it through YouTube TV, I hope you didn't watch it for a spoiler. Make sure, if you want to come back and watch it after, that would be absolutely awesome. Make sure you guys sound off in the comment section. Tell me how you guys feel when this video is published. All right, without further ado, let's go and jump on into some Smackdown. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage, and join me here in about 25 seconds. So hey, do not go absolutely anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
And we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday night live on the GSMC Sports Network, the GSMC Podcasting Network. So make sure you guys hit up that notification button, that subscribe, the like, the share. Share this podcast with all your favorite wrestling fans out there, and this will be a nice little platform for us all to have some fun. So we recently talked about some Monday Night Raw. Make sure you guys check out that video. Make sure you guys sound off in the comments section. Let me know how you feel. But now we're going to talk about some WWE Friday Night Smackdown. But before we do any of that, just want to remind you guys to go ahead and hit up that tips and donations link. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. Just remember to Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show. Follow the network here, the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity, 1,010%. But in terms of talking sports, even wrestling, it's inevitable. There's going to be some disagreements. There's going to be some high criticisms. But guess what? It's already water under the bridge. It's all good. There's no such thing as bad comment. I want to make sure you guys feel absolutely comfortable to share, to bare your soul to your favorite friend, your man, Eric Rodriguez at the GSMC Sports Network. So, yeah, don't be shy. Drop your thoughts inside that chat. And if you really want to make sure your comment, question, or concern gets noticed, go ahead and, whatever you guys put inside that little chat box is going to ultimately be guaranteed. But if if you want to show a little bit of love, go ahead and hit up that super chat right there, those super stickers, because you guys are super awesome, and together we will make sure this is the best wrestling podcast in the whole entire world. We are super grateful for each and every one of you guys who joins us here daily on the GSMC Sports Network. Your love and support obviously helps us keep producing all the sports content that you guys love so damn much. And guess what? It's absolutely FREE free once you subscribe. So, yeah, great way to support the channel, guys. 1,010%. All right. So, without further ado, we have some WWE Smackdown. So, Smackdown began. It was decent. You know, it was a nice little, you know, in Seattle, Washington. I love the pairing, Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett. I definitely think they're, pretty badass. Randy Orton comes out, obviously, talks to Nick Aldis about his future in WrestleMania 41. Seems like it's not really going to be there, but, of course, the person that answers or interrupts the promo ultimately is the match that he's going to get. We get Solo Sikoa. I don't hate Solo Sikoa. I like Solo Sikoa. The whole thing with the new bloodline thing, I thought maybe it was a little misrealmed, a little misjudged a little bit. But if you kind of think about it, Solo Sikoa is a huge reason why Roman Reigns turned into the biggest babyface once when he came back at SummerSlam last year. It took Solo Sikoa to be such a... I don't want to say the word because, I can't say it. But it took him to be such a cocky, arrogant, self-absorbed, just a nasty, gross individual that you have to turn on the TV and kind of see. And the way he was running rampant all over SmackDown. It was a doozy. Obviously, it caused all the wrestling fans to shift over to the favor of the OTC, Roman Reigns. So, in the end, Solo Sikoa, I feel like he deserves a lot of credit for that. Wasn't really successful during the whole run. He did pin Roman Reigns. Went for the WWE Championship. Didn't really come in fruition. But at the end of the day, he put Roman Reigns on the map as a huge, absolute huge babyface. So, hey, throwing some flowers right there, baby. Hell yeah. So, we might get Randy Orton take on Solo Sikoa. Not really creative. I kind of don't like it. A lot of people were hoping for Nick Aldis to fight Randy Orton at Mania. Me personally, Aleister Black also being thrown in the mix. Rusev, who recently signed back with the WWE. I kind of thought, Sami Zayn hasn't turned down, the fact that he might come back at WrestleMania, for a match. He teams up with Randy, Tama Tonga, Solo Sikoa. They fight, and then bam, that whole thing happens. Sami Zayn and Randy Orton get a feel-good win at WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas. Or maybe potentially we'll finally get that guy that's been waiting in the wings for so long, Hiko Leo, finally making his debut on, because he's been on the WWE page for quite some time now. So that's, actually last time I checked, I didn't think I saw him. Maybe they changed their mind. Or Tongaloba, maybe, and then maybe this new young bloodline, maybe they start to turn around a little bit, but, now it kind of, gravitates toward Jakob Fatu, which is, more of a better storyline and, in my opinion, 1,010%. So that should be interesting. All right. Next, we have the women's tag team gauntlet match. Of course, you have the Women's World Tag Team Champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez sitting ringside. So we get Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. I kind of reiterate on this show over and over again that even they did this for the men's tag team for a little bit, for more than a little bit, for a lot of bit. You have two singles wrestlers, Bayley in the main event. The mid-card title looks so weak that you have to put Lyra Valkyria in a world tag team. She's not fighting anybody at WrestleMania, which is awful, which is absolutely awful, which should not be, it shouldn't be like that. It should not be like that whatsoever. So now you have a gauntlet match. First people coming out, Pure Fusion Collective without Sonya Deville doesn't really have that same vibe. They still lost, so I guess they're still sticking to their MO. I'm just kidding. No, I say this with a heavy heart because I love Shayna Baszler and I love Zoe Stark, and I thought this PFC formation with Sonya Deville was going to be so much more successful than it actually kind of turned out to be, which is a damn shame. a damn shame, 1,010%. They get eliminated. Bayley and Lyra Valkyrie are still alive. Natalya and Maxine Dupree, they get knocked out easily, actually. Natalya was actually seemed kind of furious with Maxine Dupree and her decisions during the match. Next come out Kaden Carter, Katana Chance, and the actual tag team of the tag team gauntlet match, and they lost as well. So I thought that was crazy. Michin and B-Fab, they come out too as well. They lose. And, finally at the end, we get the Secret Hervis, Piper Niven, and Alba Fire with Chelsea Green. Obviously, didn't really work out. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria win the gauntlet match. They will be taking on the World, Women's Tag Team Champions, which I feel like will be a nice little segue for, I know, recently you've seen the post by Becky Lynch saying that I hate wrestling. I don't want to come back. That's just, guys, come on. Let's be smarter than that. We're wrestling fans. We've heard worse, and then bam, they're at WrestleMania. I feel like ultimately, Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria, I feel like they'll win this match at WrestleMania. Dominic Mysterio will be ringside with Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. Last time you saw Dominic Mysterio through the cage door into Becky Lynch's face, costing her the WWE Women's World Heavyweight Champion. So, poetic justice, she comes out to help take out Dominic Mysterio and keep it like an honest match. How I feel more confident that with the belts being on Morgan and Raquel, but they had a reign before that lasted I think like 40 days. So it wouldn't really surprise me if they dropped the belts here, and it looks like Judgment Day is literally on the edge of imploding with Dominic Mysterio feuding with Finn Balor. Jaden McDonough out. Finn Balor does not want to add another member. It's all over. It's done. It's done. It's just going to be, hopefully at WrestleMania, maybe this will be the end of the Judgment Day. And I say hopefully not because I hate everybody in Judgment Day. It's just that this been dragging. It's been dragging on for so long. You cut out Rhea Ripley, you cut out Damian Priest, you cut out ultimately the soul that Judgment Day is. Finn Balor, the leader, absolutely on Monday Night Raw in many cases has looked like a pissed off teenager not getting what he wants, and he looks weak. He doesn't look like a main eventer, like a lot of wrestling fans do. For me personally, I love Finn Balor. I would love to see him hold a WWE Championship once again, but this Finn Balor, this whole Judgment Day thing, it's bad. And, it's only going to get worse. One of those things where you rip off the Band-Aid fast. If the longer you keep it on, the more it's going to hurt your product. So, pretty crazy. But, we shall see what happens, at WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair attacks Tiffany Stratton out, out in the backstage. Not backstage, but, out in the parking lot. You see Tiffany Stratton screaming her head off. Get off me, girl! It's just like, oh, God, after this promo, I kind of knew that I was like, all right. Backstage, you have Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair, working side by side. They're literally probably like this. The more and more you're like this, the more and more you can kind of, joke about things that are actually kind of real. Like Tiffany Stratton bringing up the whole, the marriages and stuff like that, and her dad and her, the alcoholism and stuff like that. So, and the failed marriages. So it's like, I feel like both of them really want this match to be an absolute banger. So much drama surrounded by it, and they want to steal the show. And at this point, I feel like they did their job. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I looked at this match and I was like, dude, give the belt back to Charlotte. Give the belt back to Charlotte. Tiffany, she's frozen on the mic, not really knowing how to cut a promo, not really knowing how to kind of stick up for herself a little bit. And I was like, all right, something needs to change. I get why, Charlotte Flair won the Royal Rumble now. But now I feel like right now the match is 50-50. It went from me completely, being, and I was like, okay, Charlotte should get the belt. But in reality, I was like, okay, why would they do this to Tiffany? I feel like Tiffany Stratton and Jey Uso are kind of stuck in the same boat here. They were building up all this momentum since they made it onto their respected, brands ever since, Jey Uso became main event, Jey Uso, a single star. I don't know. I just, if Tiffany Stratton drops the belt, I would understand it. I would understand it 1,010%. But, I don't know. Ultimately crazy. Next to Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre come face to face. I definitely thought it was a nice promo to heading into their street fight at WrestleMania. Next we have Rey Fenix taking on Humberto Carrillo of Los Garza, Legado del Fantasma. Rey Fenix, absolutely impressive. And, Humberto's kind of, he's being shut out by Santos backstage. And, of course, you have Andrade kind of coming up and, putting the armor, kind of being the big brother there, being like, hey, man, you fought one hell of a match. And it was super awesome. Chelsea Green takes on Zelina Vega. Zelina Vega gets a victory. I've been banking on Zelina Vega to get back into, like, the main bookings and storylines on WWE Smackdown. I'd love for her win here, but since the addition of the Secret Service, I kind of feel like maybe now they're kind of banking on a long run by Chelsea Green. I feel like Lyra Valkyria will drop her title before Green does, because now she has backup. Because before I was like, okay, Piper Niven, Chelsea Green treats Piper Niven like trash. And, Piper Niven's going to snap, bam, cost her the title, she'll drop it to somebody. But now that it's like, a thing, a woman faction on SmackDown, I feel like, it's not really going to, her title reign's not really going to go anywhere. But Zelina Vega just fighting in the championship match would be, pretty badass. Next, we see a promo between Jade Cargill and Naomi. It was good. It was good. It served its purpose. I do like this new darker side of Naomi. I kind of hope she does pick up the win here, I think their match is night 1, or night 2. I'm not too sure. I got to double check that. And then if you have, Bianca Belair help Naomi out, that would be pretty badass. And, kind of building up toward their heel as a women's tag team run. And they can actually go after the Women's World Tag Team Championships. Would be, pretty damn interesting. It would be pretty cool. Next, we got to hear from the WWE Undisputed Champion, Cody Rhodes. And, this promo was basically just to keep setting up the main event for a night 2. Basically talking about everybody's quest as the WWE Championship, talking about the spinner belt, and the way ultimately the way Cody Rhodes was kind of talking, it kind of seemed like he left a lot of doors open. And what I mean by that is like when you kind of have these open-ended statements where you say something and then you're like, okay, if Cody Rhodes along the lines turns heel, then you could be like, oh my God, we should have all seen it coming. So, then he was like praising Cena a lot as well, saying that he fights with his heart. And, but that's, that was basically it. Cody Rhodes, typical babyface promo, did what it had to do, but it's, seems kind of badass. John Cena will be on SmackDown next week. We also have, do I read this right? The men's Andre the Giant Battle Royal. We got Zelina Vega, Katana Chance, and Katie Carter taking on Chelsea Green and the Secret Service. And we have a WWE Championship match, the Street Profits and Motor City Machine Guns, which I kind of hate. I feel like this match should have been on WrestleMania. I really thought that they were gearing up toward like a fatal 5-way or 4-way ladder match or something like that. Why not? Why not? I want this match to be screwed up so freaking bad. I want Pretty Deadly out there. I want DIY, Los Garza. I want to see everybody out there. This is a damn shame that we did not get this tag team ladder match, because it's been the tag team division on SmackDown has been absolutely on fire, and it seems like that fire quickly fizzled out, which sucks. All right, guys, so hey, do not go anywhere. We're going to talk about some AEW Dynamite Spring Break Thru preview. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage, and join me here in about 25 seconds. So hey, do not go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday night live on the GSMC Sports Network and the GSMC Podcasting Network on YouTube. So make sure you guys, Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Follow the show, follow the network here at the GSMC Sports Network. We do love a lot of peace, love, and positivity. Definitely want us to stay together. Our togetherness as wrestling fans is something that maketh the world go round. So, make sure you guys, hit up that, hit up those chats right there. Tell me how you feel. All right, we recently talked about Raw. We talked about Smackdown. Make sure you guys check out those videos and sound off in the comment section. And now, without further ado, we have AEW Spring Break in, which I can't wait for. Like I said, make sure you guys hit up the tips and donations link at the gsmcpodcast.net. All right, so we got it coming. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. AEW Dynamite is live, and I don't know where they're at. Damn it. Where are they? New York? I'm just kidding. No, but ultimately can't wait for this. I think it's going to be super, super duper badass. And, whenever AEW does these like little, PLEs and pay-per-views within the week, I like it. I feel like it's, it lives up to the potential, 1,010%. With all the, with the PLEs, AEW is actually super damn good. A lot of people did hate the recent pay-per-view, but, I thought it was great. The whole Swerve and the Jon Moxley finish at the end with the Young Bucks, you couldn't really expect Swerve to win that match. Like, come on, let's all be real here. But, ultimately we have today on Wednesday, we have Spring Break in. All right, without further ado, we have the boss, the final boss, the CEO, Mercedes Moné, Belts Moné, what's her name? 4 belts or whatever, taking on the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion, Athena. This match is, there's a reason why this match is in the Owen Hart. A lot of people want it. Everybody wants to see it, but, the titles, obviously, they do get in the way. So this is a nice way of kind of ultimately doing it. Obviously Athena taking on, defeating Harley Cameron, Mercedes Moné defeating Julia. So, and Jamie Hayter is actually Jamie Hayter on the other side. Who's the other one? It's going to bother me all day. So at this point, Billy Starks, lost. I was like, it would be kind of interesting to have her go against Athena in the finals, the whole minions and all that kind of stuff. But now, you have Mercedes Moné. You're going to get the one hell of a match. Obviously, like I said before, this is something that the fans been dying for, and we're going to see it on Wednesday. So make sure you guys definitely check that out. We have the Death Riders defending their AEW World Trios Championships against the Ops. Recently, obviously, it sucks. Pac, he's been injured, so Jon Moxley's gonna have to do double duties to kind of keep the Trios Championship. But going up against the Ops, I like their chances. I almost think with AEW All In kind of rearing around the corner that they're going to start taking some gold off them, and with the Ops, being this new fresh, not trilogy, with this being a trios. It's perfect. It's perfect. And if the title is going to change hands on Wednesday, it's going to be the Trios Championship. But yeah, like I said, Pac is injured. Sucks. Had that match with Swerve Strickland on Wednesday night Dynamite last Wednesday. And, I guess he, messed up his leg or something like that. But I guess Swerve, I guess when, reports say when he was pinning Pac, he kind of apologized and said, hey, dude, ultimately, I kind of messed up. So now we have Pac on the shelf on the injury reserve. Also on the injury reserve from the Don Callis family, we have Mark Davis. And, they were building up such a momentum from the Don Callis family, and now you got one guy down. And also gone from AEW as of right now, Orange Cassidy with a torn pectoral. Davis actually has a broken foot he suffered in his match against Powerhouse Hobbs. So now we have, Orange Cassidy with the torn pec. Both of them going to be out for quite some time. Pac actually was out last summer for quite some time, 7 months. 7 months. So, that is... that's not good. That kind of sucks ultimately for your, your momentum. From the men's side, we have the Owen Hart Cup. We have Will Ospreay, the aerial assassin, taking on one of the Don Callis family members, Konosuke Takeshita. Can't wait to see this match. This match is going to be super badass. I don't think it's going to be the main event. I really do hope the girls' match is going to be the main event. But, I don't, Takeshita to kind of ultimately, kind of feel a little bit more fire in the Don Callis family, maybe wins this match. But I ultimately feel like whoever wins this match will determine who is that wild card spot. If Will Ospreay wins, he takes on... he goes to the finals. And the wild card, which, I'll just go ahead and, goes up against Hangman Adam Page on Wednesday. Hangman, like I said, not really a babyface, not really... not really like he's not really a heel or anything like that. So, like I said, if Will Ospreay wins, I feel like they need to kind of. But then again, Jon Moxley, the leader of the Death Riders, the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, he takes the cake in terms of of basically all the heels. He stole the thunder away from the whole EVP storyline with Okada and Jack Perry running rampant all over Dynamite. And ever since Jon Moxley came back and formed the Death Riders, turned his back on Bryan Danielson, they kind of head for the hills. The Young Bucks were like, the EVPs are like, oh, we can't outshine this. And they're mad. Then they ran to New Japan Professional Wrestling, only fought in 2 matches, winning the IWGP, I think the tag team titles, and then losing them. So, love for Matthew Nicholas Jackson. Love for them, definitely 1,010%. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't really like them as heels. It just doesn't really fit, man. Like, I don't know. It is what it is, though. But ultimately, the match between Ospreay and Konosuke Takeshita will determine who this wild card will be. And just, mostly thinking about it, who's it going to be? I have a couple of no thank yous. No thank you, definitely no scapegoat Jack Perry. Don't want to see Jungle Boy, in the Owen Hart Cup, tournament. Obviously, with the EVPs coming back. And, the band is coming back together, Okada. And, it'd be crazy if the Death Riders, kind of falter at the end of All In Texas. And then you see the Elite come back. They'll be like, oh, okay. And then they kind of come out from under the troll bridge. And, they show that would be so weak. That'd be pathetic. That would suck for the wrestlers involved. That'd be crappy storyline writing. That would be absolutely awful. But I do not want to see Jack Perry in that wild card spot. Another no thank you, Christian Cage. I don't want to see Christian Cage in that wild card spot. Obviously, with Adam Copeland getting I think he got legitimately injured in that match. I think AEW was ultimately building up toward a feud between him and Christian Cage again. Both of the men obviously getting older, heading up toward retirement. Maybe this would have been their retirement match or something like that. But please don't give me the leader of the patriarchy, Christian Cage. Don't want to see that. Another no thank you. I know he was Owen Hart's best friend, and I know that he was his tag team partner. Don't want to see Jeff Jarrett in that wild card spot. I'm sorry, I'm not really huge. And of course, I don't want to see any of the Young Bucks, Matthew Nicholas Jackson fighting, singles bouts. People I do want to see. I got a yes, please. Josh Alexander makes his debut in All Elite Wrestling, taking on Hangman Adam Page. Puts on one hell of a performance. And, if he picks up the win or maybe if he gets the loss, at this point, I don't really think it'd be such a big deal because he's that damn special. And Hangman Adam Page does have a cross to burn. But, of course, even like with Jon Moxley. So it makes sense for Hangman Adam Page to move on to take on Will Ospreay. But, Josh Alexander being that wild card spot would be pretty badass. Swerve Strickland, that wild card spot, definitely I would love that. Recently got a title shot, but ultimately I do feel like whoever is in this match, besides one person, will lose to Hangman Adam Page. Why not have him and Swerve kind of rekindle their their hatred toward each other. Maxwell Jacob Friedman as well would be an interesting addition. Maybe MVP comes up to him, he's like, you know what, man, I feel so bad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in that wild card spot. I'll talk to Tony Khan. I'll make it happen. And then MJF tries to make the Hurt Syndicate proud. And, it's like, and Bobby Lashley's backstage. He's like, you know what? Prove something to me. And this is his chance. And, obviously, like I said, I feel like whoever is in that wild card spot will lose to Hangman Adam Page. Besides one person, and that one person is Darby Allin. Losing his spot to fight at All In, obviously the whole thing with the Jon Moxley. I love Darby, and he's definitely cool, 1,010%. He's pretty badass, but this kind of falls into the category of a yes, but no, but then yes. Really kind of on the fringe here a little bit. The person to dethrone Jon Moxley, the leader of the Death Riders, Darby Allin. I'm not too sure how hot I am on this, but every match that Darby's in is actually pretty badass. It's violent. Him and Jon Moxley could definitely make this absolute bloodbath, an absolute reckoning of professional wrestling. And me, for one, I would like it. It'd be good. Like I said, I'm on the fridge here, on the fence. Yes, but then no. He's been gone for so long. And then he's kind of. More like a TNT champion, maybe? Like, I don't really see him as the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. I'm sorry, I don't. And it's not that I'm, hating on his stature. I'm 5'5" on a good day. So, us little people could do great things. Look at Rey Mysterio. But, I'm not too sure if I want to see Darby in that main event spot. Especially going up against, Will Ospreay. It would be an interesting, at Double or Nothing, the final, to have like two absolute AEW baby faces going at it. It would make for a, much more interesting bout than Hangman. But, like I said, all in all, for this for me, it's kind of on the fence. It's a yes, I want it. It's a no, I don't want it. So, being a little bipolar here at the end of the show. I'm just kidding. Moving on. All right, guys. Hey, do not go anywhere. We're going into our fourth segment. We got NXT Stand and Deliver predictions. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage. If you're feeling something wrestling, go ahead and sound off in that comment chat section. Can't wait to hear and see what you guys have to say. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage. Join me here in about 20 seconds. So hey, do not go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right. Welcome back to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday night live on the GSMC Sports Network, the GSMC Podcasting Network on YouTube. So make sure you guys Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show to get some notifications when we go live, and also publish some new content. We talk about everything in terms of professional wrestling, all the action inside and outside the ring, all the backstage curtain calls, all the rumors, all the drama. We talk about conspiracy theories. We talk about superstar and active statuses, injury updates, contract negotiations, extensions, and new signings for promotions like WWE to AEW to New Japan Professional Wrestling to Stardom to basically anything under the sun in terms of professional wrestling. We talk about it here on this show 1,010%. So without further ado, we have NXT Stand and Deliver predictions. Can't wait to get on into it. So yeah, it's going to start here. All right, we have NXT Stand and Deliver this week. Obviously, in this WrestleMania weekend, it's gearing up to being like one of the best weekends, especially in terms of being a wrestling fan. This is every single time you turn on the television. With TNA as well, Ring of Honor. Make sure you guys check out those as well. Definitely loving that. It's kind of crazy how TNA Their show on Thursday is going to be at Las Vegas, maybe hinting at some TNA stars being here at Stand and Deliver, or maybe being at WrestleMania. Maybe you might see Joe Hendry. If you say his name, maybe he might appear. So, NXT Stand and Deliver, can't wait to see it. But first and foremost, before we get into it, let's talk about this weekly episode of NXT. This is also the go-home show before Stand and Deliver. Can't wait to watch it. It's going to be awesome. We have a number one contenders match to determine who's going to take on Ricky Starks for that NXT North American Championship. Eddie Thorpe takes on Ethan Page, takes on Lexis King, takes on Wesley in a fatal four-way match. I can't... I like Eddie Thorpe. I do. I feel like he's North American Championship material. Wesley, I feel like I would love to see him fight in TNA for, the X Division. And Lexis King, he's the Heritage Cup Championship. So I don't really think he's going to pick up the dub. If I had to put my money on anybody, probably be Ethan Page. The whole repertoire, the whole, the reputation between him and Ricky Starks, the Revolution, it's been quite some time, so I don't think that could really be ignored. Next, we have a couple more spots open for the Women's North American ladder match at Stand and Deliver. We're going to have another 6-way match, which is pretty badass. We have the girls who are already qualified. We have Soruka. We have Izzy, Dame of the Colleen, and of course we have the, Zarya and Kaylani Jordan. Definitely hope Kaylani Jordan turns a little bit darker, a little heel, for the ladder match. That would be, pretty badass. But a couple names that might join them. Like I said, we got 2 spots open. Carmen Petrovic would be a nice addition, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that. But the next 2 spots, I gotta be honest, they're gonna be throwaway match, throwaway superstars, like superstars that aren't probably going to win. So, and I'm not trying to be mean, whatsoever. Carmen Petrovic would be an amazing champion, but, I feel like if she qualifies, maybe she has an out. She has Ashanti the Adonis. He goes out and does, God knows, hit him with the chair, like, I'll protect you, I'll help you out. Then he ends up screwing over Carmen. So I'm not too sure how long this, that kind of old, storyline is really going to go on. But Carmen could definitely land herself in this match. Where's Thea Hale? Where has been, ever since Chase U disbanded, she's been nowhere to be seen. Really, really prominent and live and active on social media. She would be a great Women's North American Champion. I believe that 1,010%. Like I said, kind of having that edge, kind of having that presence on social media. Everybody nowadays has a TikTok. Everybody nowadays has an Instagram. Facebook is a little, declining. Do they still have Snapchat? I'm not too sure. But Thea Hale would be an interesting addition, 1,010%. Shotzi, you always have to have the unpredictable badass kind of thing, and Shotzi would definitely kind of be that, that hardcore spot like Mi Chin was in that first ladder match to determine the inaugural Women's NXT North American Champion. So it'd be interesting to kind of see Shotzi come in. Lola Vice, I love Lola Vice, but she's had her chance at the Women's NXT World Heavyweight Champion, Women's Champion, and didn't really turn out. Her feud, with I don't really see it happening. I don't. But like I said, there's still possibilities. Alicia Edwards from TNA. I feel like with this TNA and NXT partnership being, if it needs to be successful, it needs to really be circulated and gravitated around the women's division, and there needs to be a TNA superstar holding an NXT championship and vice versa, just to make this a lot more interesting, because the partnership, everybody was super excited. Everybody was, oh my god, Jordan Grace at the Women's Royal Rumble a couple years ago was absolute fire. Joe Hendry crossing over the line, being in that battle royal to determine the number one contender for Trick Williams, then Trick Williams NXT World Heavyweight Championship. Obviously, we saw Frankie Kazarian participate as well. But so far, NXT superstars going to TNA. We've got Cora Jade, which is actually, she's pretty good. Got the No Quarter Catch crew and a couple other names as well. Tatum Paxley, the list goes on and on. But Imagine a championship switching hands. That would, I don't know. It would be, be interesting. And Alicia Edwards would be an interesting, she'd be a great piece. Tessa Blanchard as well. I know she's achieved a lot of hate online recently. I'm not too sure how WWE's, hung up on it or not. But it'd be interesting to kind of see a TNA superstar, kind of being in that match. On NXT, we have Dark State. Dark State is going to be called out by the D'Angelo family. Dark State, I want to believe in them. I do. 1,010%. I want them to be 1,000. I want them to be better than Retribution. No one's going to be better than the Shield. Let's stop that right there. Channing Stacks Lorenzo maybe finds a way to kind of stab the Dawn in the back here. Maybe he's the leader of Dark State, which would be kind of lackluster. I got to be honest. I thought Trick Williams would reveal himself as the leader of Dark State, but he kind of got his arse kicked by then on NXT, so I'm like, it looks a little bit too real for me. Next, we have a number 1 tag team gauntlet match. We have the No Quarter Catch crew. We got Tyson and Tyreek, Josh Briggs. We also got Vance and Nico Vance and Jensen. We have Hank and Tank as well. No OTM. No OTM, which is kind of shocking. And no Dark State. I feel like you should have had 2 guys from Dark State. When they made their scene onto NXT, they attacked Axiom and Nathan Frazier, the champions. Why aren't they in the match? Like, for me, that's a red flag. I feel like that's strike 1 so far. Strike 2, because that one time that guy came out and like his mask fell down and he lifted it up and it covered his eyes and he was like, I kind of thought, I was like, all right, dude, that's cool, man. But we're not playing peekaboo over here. I'm just kidding. No, moving on. So this tag team gauntlet match, the winner takes on Nathan Frazier and Axiom at Stand and Deliver. Their match with Briggs and Inumura was amazing. I love that 1,010%. But, Hank and Tank has been getting a lot of, they've been getting a lot of love on NXT in terms of, fighting matches regularly, positive bookings. At this point, I feel like they're, with the Street Profits pumping them up, with, Matt and Jeff Hardy and stuff like that. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I feel like, Hank and Tank will win this gauntlet match, and we're going to get we're going to get the babyface champions going up against these new up-and-comers who are not desperately seeking approval kind of thing, but ultimately I feel like this should be a good gauntlet match, 1,010%. We got my man Anthony Mazzano in the chat saying, hi, what's up, man? Hopefully you're having a good WrestleMania weekend. Hopefully you're getting pumped. I'm pumped 1,010%. I can't wait to watch WrestleMania. All right, now to the Stand and Deliver. We have a triple threat match for the NXT World Heavyweight Championship. Obafemi defends against Trick Williams and Javon Evans. I feel, Javon Evans is such a great talent. Trick Williams as well. Oba, but this match is actually not a huge reason why I'm going to watch NXT Stand and Deliver, which once again shows how amazing and dominant is this women's division, the best women's division in wrestling. I don't think any wrestling fan could not say that proudly. Like I said, Trick Williams, he becomes NXT champion for the second time. Maybe even make it more interesting if he actually does kind of be the leader of Dark State. I know he got his ass kicked from them, last week on NXT, but maybe it was just like a ploy, But, him coming back as the top babyface, you've seen him backstage in confrontations with Javon Evans, and it's just, something needs to change. And he has this new way that he's kind of approaching a lot of the younger guys in the locker room. He feels absolutely misjudged. He feels like he deserves a championship, and he's not lying. Him against Obafemi, I feel, but in a triple threat match, usually this is the rule of thumb in professional wrestling. It'll give somebody like an out to lose the championship. And the WWE draft right around the corner. Oba lands on Smackdown or Raw. I feel like NXT would be fine with the Javon Evans or Trick Williams. Got a chat from my man Anthony Mazzano. I think in order for Dark State to be taken seriously, I think there has to be a way. They can push themselves into the title match with Trick Evans and Oba. Yeah, I could see Lennox kind of doing that. Being maybe he's the leader of Dark State, and maybe like a lot of wrestling media is just like, oh, it's got to be Trick, or or it's gonna be it's gonna be Stacks. But I feel like it would be 1,010% that way. Anthony Mazzano also says I have a better answer, more out there than I think. Over might be the leader of the Dark State. Let me hear it. I would definitely love to hear your opinions on you guys. Let me know what you guys think of the Dark State. Let me know if you guys think that their future is positive. Let me know if you think there's going to be somebody ultimately kind of pulling the strings a little bit. In terms of Dark State, because they definitely need somebody. Like Anthony said, they need to be taken seriously. This Stand and Deliver, it's the WrestleMania of NXT. It's the WrestleMania of NXT. This has to be a reason for Dark State to, why were they formed? Why this and that and the other? Oba Femi, Anthony Mazzano says Oba Femi. I feel like that would be great for Oba. He was the first one targeted and attacked, but all three of these men, they've been attacked by Dark State. So obviously conspiracy theories are still up and riding up in the air. Oba Femi would be an absolute. Oh my God! Imagine such a dominant faction. It would bring such a prestige to Dark State that a lot of fans probably wouldn't really see coming. And like I said, Oba being the first one attacked, that could also be a reason why you can think to yourself, no way, that can never happen. But then you think about it, he was the first one attacked. Be like, maybe he was like, I want you to set an example. I have a bad Nigerian accent. I'm not even going to try. He's like, you guys need to set a good example. Take me out. Show me how strong you are. Show me how strong you can be. And then, lo and behold, you have the leader of Dark State there. That'd be pretty badass. Who do you think wins the ladder match for the North American title? Being honest, I would love to see Kaylani Jordan win, and I would love to see her kind of take on a different, like a dark persona. She lost the Women's North American Championship once. She is going to do everything in her power to never lose it again, because Lola Vice said it. I believe she said it. How ever since Kaylani Jordan lost the NXT Women's North American Champion, no, I think it was Jada Parker. Ever since she lost that championship, man, she's lost it. She hasn't been the same person. She's been a different. She's been a different style. Like she's not. She doesn't really have any friends backstage anymore. That would, I would love to see that for Kaylani Jordan to be a winner. Obviously, ladder match would be pretty badass. Sol Ruka too. I wanted Sol Ruka to be the inaugural one. I thought that would have been pretty badass. Zarya too. Zarya's my number 3. I would love to see Zarya win that championship 1,010%. So, like I said before, Ricky Saints is going to be defending his NXT North American Championship at Stand and Deliver. Obviously, who's going to win that Fatal 4-Way match? I think Ethan Page picks up the victory. We get an Ethan Page first Ricky Starks, match at Stand and Deliver. Now we're getting down to the teeth of it. We have Julia, Jada Parker, Jordan Grace, Stephanie Vaquer. This match is going to be absolutely off the hook. It's going to be great. It really is going to be great. I see 3 women on here that are most likely going to be drafted to Raw or SmackDown, because the mid-card titles on Raw and SmackDown it's in trouble. I don't want to say it's in trouble because I don't want to jinx it, because I ultimately advocated for them to have a Women's Intercontinental United States Championship. And now that they have, they've kind of dropped the ball. It's not really... Anyways, Stephanie Vaquer, when she came to WWE, she was actually given a choice of where do you want to go. Julia back from injury. Jordan Grace. I got to be honest. I would like to see Jada Parker win. Like I said before, wrestling rule of thumb. Fatal 4-Way matches, triple threat matches. Someone always finds a way to weasel their way in for the win. And when I say weasel, I don't mean that she's undeserving. The ultimate opportunistic person, Jada Parker, I would love that for her. I would love that 1,010%. She's been around the title scene for quite some time, causing fights, being such a huge, huge piece on the NXT women's roster. Every other episode, she makes the division prominent. She makes her presence known And, her holding the championship would be an absolute banger, would be badass. And none of those women's superstar would have a say-so of like a rematch. They wouldn't have a rematch clause because it's a fatal four-way match. So it'd be kind of cool to kind of see that, ultimately, happen. And, 1,010%. All right, before we move on to our next segment, we got my man Anthony in the chat. Did you already talk about WrestleMania in your predictions? Not yet. I'm actually going to be publishing a video in the next couple of days. It's going to be awesome. Definitely want to make sure you guys throw in your WrestleMania predictions as well. The question is, how do you make that happen without making Kaylani Jordan or Stephanie Jordan or Julia Luke weak? That's a good question. That's a very good question. And like with the whole like the fatal four-way match or triple threat match, like if you kind of find a way usually in wrestling, and obviously I know you were I know my man is a wrestling fan as well, you kind of see just a barrage, especially in fatal four-way matches. You see like a barrage of everybody hitting their finishing move, and then out of nowhere, somebody comes up, pushes one of the girls outside the ring, and then, covers, the person that, that just got the finishing move landed on. And I feel like, if she gets a cheap win like that, I don't think that would make them look, it wouldn't make Jordan or Stephanie or Julia look weak at all. I don't feel like that would, I feel like it'd be like, oh, Jada Parker, ultimate opportunistic person, kind of like how Edge won his, WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I feel like, but then again, I'm high on Jada Parker. I feel like she's great. She's paid her dues in NXT. I do feel like she deserves a title run. Definitely. All right, guys. So, hey, do not go anywhere. We get our fifth and final segment. Like I said before, John Cena is in his retirement tour. So let's go ahead and talk about the worst retirement tours in wrestling history. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage, and join me here in about 20 seconds. So, hey, do not go anywhere. And we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday through Friday, every Monday night. I always want to say that. I don't know why. It used to be Monday through Friday, but with times and getting a couple of jobs to support the fan bam, obviously gotta pay your dues. Make sure you guys Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show so you guys can get some notifications when we publish videos. We talk about all things wrestling, all the action inside and outside the ring, backstage curtain calls, all the rumors, all the dramas, all the conspiracy theories. We talk about superstar and active statuses, injury updates, contract negotiations, extensions, and new signings. We talk about everything under the sun in terms of professional wrestling promotions like AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, WWE, New Japan Professional Wrestling, Stardom, you name it. If it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we talk about it here on this show, 1,010%. All right, without further ado, we got my fifth and final segment. We have the worst wrestling retirement tours, and there's a lot of them. It's crazy because I feel like there's more than less, and that's a damn shame. But I feel like a lot of the reasons are, and I'm going to talk about it in this segment, is the way the WWE has been, ran, with the whole, with Vince McMahon and, with him not wanting to, kind of having this tribal commitment between wrestling brands. Oh, you're a WWE fan, you'll never hear a WWE guy on, AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, etc., etc. And I feel like that hurt the talent. 1,010%. You've seen a lot of talent, like I'm going to talk about today, that left WWE because they weren't really into it. They were forced to have their retirement matches, their retirement tour outside of WWF/WWE that they ultimately built up their name. And it kind of went down in fame, and just wasn't really no bueno. It just wasn't really bueno. I got my man Anthony Mazzano in the chat. How do you make the ending for John Cena and Cody Rhodes? Not predictable. Predictable, yes. Yeah, 1,010%. There are a way you can make it entertaining because we already know John's going to win his 17th title, and that's true. That's true, 1,010%. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Once when you turn John Cena heel, I ultimately kind of felt like that was going to just throw everything out the window. Have a babyface versus babyface in the main event of WrestleMania, forcing fans to kind of, who do I choose? And then maybe, and then Cody Rhodes picks up the win. The men shake hands in the middle of the ring. John Cena looks Cody Rhodes dead in the eyes, and he says, "Hey, it's your business now, kid." And then bam, rides off to the sunset. Everybody respects John Cena, 17th championship. Hey, big whoop. But now it's like you kind of have to make John Cena win. Like when Anthony was saying, like, I don't really see a reason why. Like, I don't think John Cena has been, it hasn't been a bad retirement tour. It really has not been. I feel like you haven't really gotten a lot of retirement tours like this. And same thing with The Rock. The Rock, we have not seen The Rock since Elimination Chamber. And yet every single time someone mentions what's going to happen in the main event of WrestleMania, oh, The Rock this, The Rock that. Like, he hasn't been around the whole European tour. He wasn't even there. And that sucks for the WWE. That sucks for the fans. So, is this thing being really taken seriously or into consideration that John Cena is not going to win the belt? Because, like I was talking about earlier today, I feel like the heels should absolutely dominate this WrestleMania. I think they should absolutely smoke the baby faces. Absolutely smoke them. Definitely. That, because there's more storylines to come from that. Like, I love Jey Uso, but nah, give me Gunther retains. Ludwig Kaiser gets involved or something. Jimmy Uso turns his back on his brother. Something, definitely. I don't think the hatred for John Cena is fair. It's not his fault that Vince was pushing him the way he did. True. John never asked for that. And the accusations from friends that John buried talent is unfair because people worked with him. Wade Barrett said it wasn't John Cena's fault that Nexus didn't work out. And I give this a lot of thought and consideration. I definitely think that John Cena, I thought it was kind of cool because you have, like you were talking about, like all the naysayers of people being like, oh, John Cena, the only reason why he is in the position that he is right now is because he stepped on everyone's face coming out of the tide pool, drowning other people. You can go one way and be like, at that time, John Cena was young too. John Cena, he was looking to be the face of the corporation. Like Anthony said, like Vince McMahon, he saw John Cena as like a nice little, like a puppet. Kids loved him. Kids admired him. There's a lot of wrestling fans in the stands today because of how great of a babyface John Cena was. And, John Cena, maybe he was just following orders. Having somebody like John Cena trying to fill in their shoes and be like, okay, we're going to have John drop the belt to this guy. And we're just expecting the company is going to be fine. What's something that The Rock always said? I'm going to do what's best for business. And it was best for business for John Cena to be on top that long. Anthony also said there was a people in the group this coming from Wade Barrett himself that wasn't really taking the gimmick that seriously. Vince said he was supposed to be the replacement for Hulk Hogan. And I can see that. 1,010%. Not really shocking me in that, in that kind of aspect right there. So I agree with that 1,010%. So without further ado, we talked about how badass John Cena's retirement tour has been so far. Like my man was saying, it hasn't been bad. Happy retirement tour, like I said, and it kind of sucks that there's more or less kind of bad ones than good ones. John Cena's retirement tour seeming like it's going actually pretty damn smoothly, but we're going to talk about some ones that was, that's been pretty bad. And a lot of these individuals put they put their body through excruciating pain. They've shortened their lives. They've, some of them, they can't walk around without, with a cane, or they can't walk around the house, or can't sit down straight because their back hurts. They're not going to be able to, dance with their daughter on their wedding day because, you have something, your ACL has been torn up so damn much that it's beyond recognizable. It's beyond replaceable. Some wrestlers, they do commit to a retirement tour, a way to celebrate their legacy, but absolutely some leave a bad, sour, atrocious taste in the back of our mouth. So let's go and talk about the first one. We have Mick Foley. Mick Foley's final match being at the Royal Rumble 2012, going up against Sheamus. You have the hardcore legend. This guy had 3 different personalities: Dude Love, Mankind, and the hardcore legend Cactus Jack. And he fights a match against Sheamus for his retirement tour. He was actually supposed to fight Dean Ambrose, but actually Mick Foley wasn't really feeling it, so he couldn't actually commit to that match. But Mick Foley never really had a retirement tour that ultimately celebrated his legacy. Like I said, a lot of this does reflect on how WWE was ran during the Vince McMahon era. So you can't really be a little bit too skeptical about this, but it's also fun to talk about. Mick Foley also had a little small stint in TNA where, he wrestled a few times. A lot of people were shocked to see Mick Foley there. I believe he was there the same time as Chyna. I think he was. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But Mick Foley definitely deserved a way better retirement tour. Alundra Blaze as well. At Women's Evolution, the first one, she was in the 20-woman Battle Royal match, which was won by Nia Jax, which is cool. But Alundra Blaze, after everything going down with the Monday Night Wars, where she trashed the WWF Women's Championship on air, and then comes back to WWE, and it's just this could have been done a lot better. Obviously, it was, later on down the line, she had that was, I believe, in 2000. Oh, God, I can't. 18? No, I could be wrong. But I believe, because she's a Hall of Famer. She's a Hall of Famer as well. She deserved a way, 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 way better retirement tour than than a lot of these, superstars actually get. Got another chat from my man, Anthony. Foley was dealing with a lot of issues health-wise, which I agree with. When, when it came to a ton of injuries, the style of wrestling that he did finally caught up to him. Yeah, like I said, a lot of these guys put themselves through excruciating pain to entertain the fans. And he came back. He was the general manager of Raw, obviously being seen under Stephanie McMahon. That was cool and all. I thought that was pretty dope. But God, like I said, Dude Love, Mankind, and Cactus Jack, and then going out like that in a match. His last match being against Sheamus was actually a little lackluster. But, some people might have thought it was great. Like I said, opinionated, subjective, 1,010%. Next, we have Ron Simmons. Ron Simmons, his final match was in a 2012 indie event after being released by WWE. He teamed up with a random tag team, teamed up with Grandmaster Sexay of Too Cool, obviously. If you're part of the Attitude Era fandom, you get that, you understand. But, dude, oh, God. What could we really say about Ron Simmons leaving World Wrestling? He was an icon. Ministry of Darkness, We Are the Nation of Domination. Basically, when he went out, look at what it says on his shirt, guys. Damn, that's all you could really say. I wanted to see the Acolytes one final time, him teaming up with JBL. That should have been his retirement match. I'm sorry, it should have been his retirement match. 1,010%. A couple cameos on wrestling, on Raw, Smackdown events, just backstage saying damn, and you couldn't really give him a tag team match with his partner and little like I said, kind of sucks. Next we have this man, Hulk Hogan, wrestling icon from the 80s, found his run in TNA, Maximum Impact. He teamed up with James Storm and Sting, where they fought, I think, I'm not too sure, but he wrestled Sting at Bound for Glory in 2011. that should have ultimately been his retirement match. It was a little slow. But it just all downhill. All downhill. I feel like, I've been a wrestling fan. I remember watching Hogan Knows Best and just like kind of watching everything go down with the family. Then later on in life, a lot of these public scrutinies and like and then everything with the whole political thing. And I'm just like, can any man really trash his legacy, what he did in WWE? What he did in WWF was amazing. WCW, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, he was great. Well, at the end he started fizzling out, and then he came along with Eric Bischoff, and Dixie Carter kind of looked at it. She's like, "Oh, sorry, no, thank you, Panda Energy, out." And then TNA was ultimately struggling. So Hulk Hogan, I got to be honest, basically based on his wrestling career, nothing outside, none of that BS or whatever. A wrestling icon of the 80s. Someone that a lot of these wrestlers looked up to, a lot of these fans looked up to. He never got a retirement tour from WWE based on personal demons, personal, self-absorbed, and his prestigious, his reputation, his legacy. It took a hit because of it. And, it's a damn shame. But, in an alternate world where Hulk Hogan wasn't completely screwed and did, crapped up things, like, I would have loved to see this man have a retirement tour that was actually, that people actually gave a damn about. But, it is what it is. Randy Savage, another wrestling icon in the 80s, had a tag team match with the young AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy at TNA Turning Point 2004, where they defeated Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. But when I see Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, I love them and all. Wrestling, like loyalty and stuff like that. But much like Hollywood Hulk Hogan, much like Randy Savage, I feel like as soon as WCW, 2001, kind of fell off the boat, there was a couple of guys that was like, dude, I can't see myself in WWE. I can't. And Vince McMahon, even with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall left first, and then it's just like I said. A lot of this taken into consideration that Vince McMahon and the way he ran WWE throughout these guys' tenure, where they could have 1,010% potentially had an amazing retirement tour, but based on Vince's ego, all the wrestling egos backstage didn't really come in fruition, and I feel like Macho Man Randy Savage suffered, snapping to a Slim Jim. Obviously, R.I.P. Rest in peace, my man. But he never really got a retirement tour. He did, but when you think about it from an outside perspective, you're like, he really did it. Should have been a lot better. Next, we have the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Obviously, a lot of you NWA fans know this guy. And, of course, WCW found his way into WWE for quite some time. Made his way to TNA, to WWE, to AEW. And, definitely floated around quite a bit of time. A lot of, baggage outside of the ring. Ric Flair's last match was so important to AEW that's what they named the event. It was Ric Flair's last match. I'll fight you at Ric Flair's last match. He teamed up with Andrade, and he defeated Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Something that I never really understood about Ric Flair. And, some guys, it's hard to hang up the boots. I get it. The attention you get, the respect, the money. It's all worth it. It is all worth it. But come on, man. You had that amazing match at WrestleMania with Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. That classic, I'm sorry. And Ric Flair's just crying because he knows what's going to happen. And then bam! Sweet chin music. I liked it. I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan. So that could have been the end of it. That could round of applause. WrestleMania 24. WrestleMania 24. That's WrestleMania. It doesn't get any better than that. And I don't know. Ego. I don't know what to call it, man. It's crazy. Bret Hart teams up with John Cena to have a 3-minute match with Alberto Del Rio and his manager Ricardo Rodriguez in a BS match in the 2021 episode of Monday Night Raw. That's not good. It wasn't good. Bret Hart had a little run with WWE. He actually won the United States Championship. all good things. That's cool and all, but for me, it was sold short. It was sold short. Obviously, we all know everything that happened with Bret Hart and Goldberg, and it's a damn shame. I can imagine in the back of Bret Hart's mind, he was like, if I never would have got that kick from Bill Goldberg, he would have probably surpassed Ric Flair's 16th championship a long ass time ago. That's how great Bret the Hitman Hart really was. He would have had a legacy in WWE. 1,010%. He'd probably be part of WWE creative right now. He'd be like royalty. But unfortunately, stuff does happen. Injuries, you can't forecast them. And Bill Goldberg, I'd say, hey, watch out for the kick. Bret Hart said, he never told me to watch out for the kick. Like, when, he said, she said stuff, and I can understand why Bret Hart wanted to come back for a small little stint. Just that hunger of what could have happened. I get the backstage politics with Vince McMahon guaranteeing him a 6-year plus multi-million-dollar contract. There was actually a rumor in wrestling media saying that he was going to hold on to the championship for like 6 years or something like that. That is crazy. If someone tells you that and you know that they're not like really fibbing, I'd be like, you know what, like, I'm good. But Bret Hart, never really had a retirement tour. I get it. I understand, with the injury and stuff like that. But his last match being against Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez, teaming up with John Cena's cool, but it doesn't really hit. I feel like a man of Bret Hart's caliber, and like I said, injury does play a factor. Him with the Hart Foundation, one of the most dominant, most recognizable family group inside WWE history. Obviously, Jim the Nine Hart, rest in peace. Owen Hart, rest in peace. Definitely love everyone involved in the that is the Hart Foundation. And for me personally, I would have loved to see him go against Shawn Michaels. In an alternate universe where Bret Hart never went to WCW, and then him and Shawn, they eventually did bury the hatchet, which is pretty badass, which is cool. Going up against each other one last final time in the retirement matches would have been so freaking cool, man. Would have been so freaking awesome. But, maybe in the next universe. Who knows? Definitely 1,010%. Speaking of Shawn Michaels, we have his retirement tour. His final match at 2018 Crown Jewel against the Brothers of Destruction, Kane and The Undertaker. Oh, bad. All bad. I remember watching this match. I was actually watching it with my wife, and she knows wrestling, but she doesn't really dive into the content and like kind of dissects things like I do. Like I look at things, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't meant to happen. Oh, they could have did that better to protect themselves and stuff like that. I'm not a professional wrestler. I've just been a fan ever since I was 6 years old. But that match was really, really bad. I think there was a spot where I think The Undertaker was trying to hit Triple H, and then I think he missed him, and then Triple H just randomly goes, like he goes up against the barricade, and you're like, what is going on right now? What the heck's going on? Obviously, I love the end of the match because D-Generation X picks up the victory. I like Kane and The Undertaker, the Brothers of Destruction, but I was more of a DX kind of guy. But this match was really bad. It was really bad. But I felt like ultimately it was forced, with, trying, I believe they didn't have a contract with the sports government in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia yet. So I feel like maybe they're like, okay, we need to make this match happen. But I feel like it ultimately kind of hurt them more than it actually did kind of propel them. Last but not least, one of the worst retirement tours of all time. And it's not Kurt Angle's fault. Kurt Angle, simply, facing a lot of, demons outside of work, substances, neck injury, left WWE, clearly frustrated, went to TNA. He was promised to, WWE was such a hectic work schedule. Kurt Angle's work schedule at TNA was probably like 2 or 3 times a week. And he was like, compared to like 5? Yeah, 5 or 6? Yeah, dude, I'm going to do it. I need to protect. I need to get right. And, Kurt Angle in TNA, you can argue that he's one of the Mount Rushmores on TNA, 1,010%. Him, AJ Styles, Sting, Samoa Joe, a lot of those, the Monster Abyss. There's a lot of TNA stars that, once when Kurt Angle kind of came on the scene, it was a big deal. It was a big deal in the wrestling world because Kurt Angle, 2007, ever since then, I think it was 2007 or 2008, and then like he was just gone. He was just gone. Then he appeared on TNA, had a new badass entrance, was absolutely a dog, was a monster in TNA, and he comes back to the WWE. Comes back. It's been such a long time. I think he was inducted into the Hall of Fame first. And then Vince McMahon has this great idea that he's going to be the general manager of Monday Night Raw, and he's just going to, people are going to talk crap to him. Stephanie McMahon and Triple H are going to talk down to him 24/7. Then he's going to get pedigreed at Survivor Series, losing the match for for his team, and and then the storyline with him and Jason Jordan. There's actually according to reports, Vince McMahon found out that Kurt Angle had a lot of love interests with a lot of African American ladies back in the day. So he thought it'd be funny to be like, oh, you have an illegitimate, African American son, Kurt. Come on, that's funny, dude. That's not funny. That's not funny. That's like in no world, way, shape, or form that was funny. That was effed up. That was screwed up, man. So then Kurt Angle, he got it bad. He also, in an interview, he said that maybe he was punished for leaving WWE when he did. And when he came back to WWE, what happened? Baron Corbin, I don't blame Baron Corbin whatsoever. Baron Corbin was probably one of the competitors inside the ring that I absolutely adored the most. You put him in any storyline. Hey man, you're gonna look like a bum today. And he's like, I don't like it, but I'll do it, and I'll do it great. And he did it absolutely great. You're gonna be the lone wolf, you bring the darkness. Okay, yeah. And then he did an absolutely great job. And he came back as a heel. And Constable Corbin, talking trash to Kurt Angle. Would have been a little bit more fitting if he had Kurt Angle win his retirement match. But in his retirement match, he lost to Constable Corbin. Like I said, not hating on Corbin whatsoever at all. I definitely respect him. I think he's now on the Busted Open podcast, which is actually pretty cool. I feel like that's good for him. Hopefully he makes it back to wrestling. I would love to see him, back in, in either one. He's that damn good that I would, check out some highlights, of course, if he comes back. All right, guys. So, hey, that's it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed the wrestling show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Follow us on Twitter /X, whatever you like to call it, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook for more content and updates. And make sure you guys tune in to all the other shows here on the GSMC Sports Network. We are a growing family of passionate sportscasters who have one goal in mind to make sure you guys consume all the content that you guys love so damn much. 1,010%. It's absolutely free. So make sure you guys Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Tune into Jeremy's Sports by GSMC. Tune into my man Matt's GSMC Football Podcast, Kenneth's GSMC Sports Podcast as well. We got Marab talking basketball on the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We got my man, we got Jake talking college football, 1,010%, absolutely growing. And make sure you tune into the Dead Ball Podcast hosted by Nolan. So, you got missed out a lot of good shows. Be a part of this GSMC Sports bloodline. Don't regret it. I give you guys the Eric Rodriguez guarantee that you guys will absolutely love it. 1,010%. Remember to always, follow the videos, sound off in the comment section. Tell me what you guys want to see in the next video. And, we talk some professional wrestling. Hope you guys have an amazing, fun, safe week. It is WrestleMania weekend. Have fun. Hold your loved ones close. Have a party or something for WrestleMania. And, next show, tell me how awesome it is. I'm going to be publishing some videos, my WrestleMania predictions, and we'll get into that. So once again, stay beautiful, but most importantly, like always, love you.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit.